The RLCS Open Qualifiers double elimination for North America has concluded, and we're going to recap it all here today. We're talking about the biggest stories that happen. Next week, we have Swiss next Friday into the bracket on Saturday and Sunday, so you won't want to miss that. But a lot of things happened in this Open Qualifier. At the same time, a lot of things didn't happen, and we're going to go over all that now. So let's start with obviously what we have to start with. We have to start with Turbo Cheeks and their run, especially because, you know, that they got eliminated early, so why not go in chronological order? But after day 2, they actually got a DQ into the day 3 open bracket, the upper bracket, I should say, to play Dignitas in a best of 5. Now, would they have won anyway? Very, very possible. But it was just funny that that's how they walk into day 3. So, you know, Dignitas coming in, you're expecting, like, Dignitas is considered probably like a top 5 team right now in North America after their huge runs that they've had recently. But then Rizzo did this in game 1, and things got a little scary. 0-0, late in game 1, Rizzo coming off the wall. Ooh.
I didn't think he still had it in him. Look at him with the boost. You know, it's a little disappointing because we're on Team Dignitas right now, but you gotta respect it.
And that's the Dignitas call by Turtle and Jorby. Obviously, always a fantastic cast there on the Dignitas side, but it is funny that they obviously want to hype it up, but it's like, yeah, it's a Dignitas goal. Game 1 goes to Turbo Cheeks, and you're like, oh, all right, maybe there's something here. But unfortunately, Turbo Cheeks, they did fall in that match 3-1, or maybe not, unfortunately, if you're an NA fan. It's hard, because like everyone wants them to win, but then at the same time, if Turbo Cheeks actually did win, what does that say about North America? But we'll move on to how they got eliminated, because they did it in classic Turbo fashion. So let's bring it back up. Here we go. Overtime. They're down 2-0 right now. And here we go. Off the kickoff. It's like, all right, big save here. Big save by Rizzo. You think we're okay? Oh, Turbo! Turbo!
GG's, fellas. GG's. That's our season.
I got one more in me.
Good luck.
He's got one more in him. Turbo doing it again. Own goals of class from him. Well done to Turbo Cheeks. It was a fun run to watch. They'll be back for future qualifiers. But, you know, when you're an underdog, or when everyone's going to root for the underdog, you can't win a regional, right? Because then you're not the underdog anymore. So, classic chess move here by Turbo Cheeks to get eliminated early. Turbo just taking it on himself to realize what's at stake here, and he does it well. On top of that, we have a direct tweet, which I don't think I have popped up anywhere here, but 10 new rookies are coming in to the RLCS for this first main event. Last time around, I'm going to try and just click it here real quick so I can read it. Sorry, I don't have the picture for you. But last season, only 3 rookies made main events. That was Creams, Drew, and Evo. So this one, in the first event, we already have 10. That's Wavy, Nas, Frosty, Reveal, Scribbles, Earl, Skippy, PNDH, Realize, Coffer. I'm not sure how to pronounce his name. Sorry. And 5 up. So a bunch of new players coming in, which is absolutely huge. At the same time, I think there's some, like, things we're obviously going to move, because the way this bracket wound up, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, was rather normal for an open qualifiers of double elim size. But basically, like, Wavy on TSM, Nass is on M80, all 3 of Snowman with Frosty, Reveal, and Scribbles, all 3 of the young Whippersnappers, which makes sense, PNDH, Realize, and Skippy. Pirates had 5 up, Plot Twist had Coffer, or Corfier. I'm not, honestly, I'll figure it out at some point. Let me know in the comments below if you know. But the one important thing here is Scribbles was the only RLCS player, to my knowledge, across any region to take advantage of that 13-year-old rule now. And he makes his first RLCS main event at the young age of 14. So congrats to him, the youngest player to ever do it. So good on him making that main event, taking advantage. Like there's probably some other players, maybe young players that took advantage of the prize pool split. But in terms of main event, Scribbles is the only one, to my knowledge, across all the regions. So hats off to him. One other thing, or two things, I guess. Omelette was probably one of the few projected top teams, like I would say like top 12-ish, that got eliminated. Lime, Blaze, Zenil, and Percy. It's 2/3 of the M80 roster from last year, if you remember their runs. They got eliminated by the Young Whippersnappers. Young Whippersnappers are the only team that come through the lower bracket on day 3 to make it through. So unfortunate for Omelette. It's also just really unfortunate because, like, as a team being ranked probably in that 10 to 12 range, you were going to need some magical runs anyway to make a major. Now, missing out on one of these main events is going to be incredibly unfortunate for them, and it probably, like, basically takes them out for their season in terms of hoping to get one of those, you know, magical runs to a world championship or to a major. So, at least for this first split, it really, really hurts for them. Unfortunate there. But the Young Whippersnappers, you know, coming out. 3 basically brand new faces, probably the true underdogs of this entire bracket, have made it through. On top of that, we have to talk about OG. They had a bit of a scare, and I just want to show some of their games versus leftovers in the lower bracket. OG was seeded number 2, and they had to fight their way through the lower bracket to make it in. I got 2 clips for you here, but they played leftovers in the lower bracket final, and we're going to take a look at a very, very close series, and OG staying alive. So first, our first clip is leftovers OG. Oh, actually, this was supposed to be a different clip, I think, but let's take a look anyway. That's fine. So this is how they won it all. Game 5 overtime. J Naps, the knapsack, comes out. Danger Taco on the call there. Huge for them, making it in. They were supposed to make it in, obviously. They were supposed to make it in through the upper bracket. TSM actually knocked them down to the lower bracket. But they do survive just barely. Game 5 overtime. There's one other play I wanted to point out, and I got it here now. This was game 3 overtime in a very long overtime. And this one, like, obviously not as important, but it could almost feel that way. We're going to look at Nolly's shot here in game 3 overtime, very, very late into the overtime.
Everyone reset as going to be turning into a chess match sometimes.
Sorry if it's all pixelated. It's a Twitter video. Nolly. Oh, against all 3.
Game calls his own number. Double tap 2-1.
Look at this.
Disgusting from the Englishman.
3 defenders. Beautiful play there by Nolly. But that allowed OG to stay alive in that match, basically. Or at least take the lead 2-1 in that series. It did go to 5, obviously, versus leftovers, but OG does prevail. And then the last thing that I want to show you, here's just how the bracket wound up. We'll go back to full screen here. See some Persona ads. But here we go. Here's how the upper bracket went. And all things considered, everyone was expecting, you know, maybe some craziness after a long off season. Basically, all the projected teams made it in outside of Omelette. So, like, if you look at this upper, pretty much like maybe a deleted versus Clover. I can't even pronounce it. But like that one's a toss up, I would say, probably. But besides that, honestly, pretty by the numbers across the board here. Maybe you would say Snowmen, but I think a lot of people projected them to do at least pretty decent. But across the board, not too many upsets. Boise State made a big run throughout the lower bracket. Plot Twist does take that win, though. But as you can see, any team that won in the upper bracket wound up winning in the lower bracket in their last game. So Plot Twist, Pirates, Shopify, deleted, except for Omelette, Snowmen, Muffin Men, and OG. They all won the lower bracket final. But yes, the only one that didn't happen was Omelette versus Young Whippersnappers, who started the day in the lower bracket. They were worse off than Turbo's Cheeks, sorry. Right there. So they were in the upper bracket. Young Whippersnappers started in the lower. Still had to play a best of 3 today, or on day 3. And they made their run through 3-1, 3-2, 3-1 to make it in. So all in all, like, I think we got pretty much the best teams you would expect. There wasn't too much unusual outside of Omelette, again, that they were considered probably in that top 12 range by pros. We do have a pro power ranking that I polled all of the pros last week for, that will be revealed on Saturday of the pre-shows next week. So that should be a lot of fun to take a look at. But Omelette was at least in that top 12 range. So Omelette's the only basically snub here in this bracket. The seeds are not technically out yet for the first round of matches. I know there's some people saying that certain things are verified, or maybe they're not. Like, honestly, I don't know exactly how they seed. Very likely, though, we're probably going to get a lot of rematches, I assume, because if they keep any sort of seeding, there's going to be some rematches. So we'll see how it all plays out, but that's what you should expect on Friday. We'll talk more about my own power rankings and the seeds and the matches of round one in a video later on in the week. But that's it for me for now. That's the recap. Pretty much, it boils down to 10 new players in there. Turbo Cheeks, great run. Omelette's the only team that got snubbed. Besides that, pretty typical, I would say, across the board. So that'll do it for me. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.